Welcome, everyone. We will be talking about Italy today. So thank you so much for joining us. We've got Traverse Journeys and Creative Edge Travel. I'm Ashley, and we have Sierra. Sierra can say a little hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Traverse Journeys were really based on immersive experiences all over the world. Sierra is also very much based on like culturally immersive experiences in Italy. And so we thought, why don't we combine our two forces today and talk to you about these like really incredible spots in Italy because it's such a diverse country with so many different types of experiences that you have or can have. Just a little bit about ourselves, about Traverse, and also reflecting the values of creative edge travel. We're very much about people, planet, and purpose. We prioritize people-centered experiences like interactions with local artisans and makers and doers and people in the community. We are really mindful of the earth that we walk on, our
Okay, I'm
impact
just
on the
gonna,
planet.
sorry to interrupt, but I'm not seeing the slides if you were meaning to be showing them right now.
Oh, thank you. Is anyone else not seeing the slides, Andrea?
I'm seeing planet right now.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Okay. Um, okay, I'm
I'll keep
sorry. I've
I'll
got
keep
it.
rolling. No
Yeah,
worries.
keep going. I got
If
it.
anyone else isn't seeing the slides, be sure and let us know.
Other
Um,
people in the chat are seeing the slides.
okay, perfect. And purpose. So we really look to keep people in the local community, bring money into the local community, support locally owned hotels, women-owned social enterprises, and we also have like a nonprofit component where we do a donation to a local organization. So that's a little bit about us. Sierra, are you able to see the slides now? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. My bad.
Okay. Perfect. No worries. That happens. We like live in this virtual world these days. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to do a snapshot. We're going to talk to a little bit about the geography and climate, history, culture, just to place us here where we are in Italy. We'll talk about our approach, how we build our tours, what makes them special and unique. Then we'll dive into three specific parts of Italy. So we'll be looking at Tuscany, Campania, and Puglia. And each of those sections will go beyond the highlights. So the hidden gems, like what we've sought out in each of those destinations. And of course, for joining us today, you'll get a little special discount. So we'll share that at the end. And then if you have questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end. You're welcome to put things in the chat too. Andrea's on with us and she'll capture those. We'll make sure and address at the end as well. All right, so welcome to Italy. So Sierra, over to you.
Yeah, so as we said at the beginning, I'm Sierra. I'm the founder of Creative Edge Travel, and I'm so happy to collaborate with Traverse Journeys because we've been in touch for years because we have similar philosophy and values, and this was just a perfect fit. So um, welcome to Italy. So you might guess, since I chose to focus Creative Edge Travel entirely on Italy, I'm very passionate about it. If you're here, you've probably seen Under the Tuscan Sun, Eat, Pray, Love, something that planted some seeds and inspired you to go experience it all for yourself one day. So we'll start with a little snapshot of Italy, give you a little overview. The country of Italy is about the size of California. There are 20 different regions. The most well-known that you're probably familiar with are Tuscany, Sicily, Veneto, which is where Venice is, and Lazio, which is where Rome is. But there are a lot of other areas to explore. And the regions we've chose to focus on today offer both highlights and some really cool hidden gems so that you can kind of get both sides. There's about 60 million people in Italy and they use the euro. Rome is Italy's major airport. And then, of course, Milan, Naples, and Catania, which is in Sicily, all have international flights as well. So the geography and climate of Italy, Italy has coasts along the Ligurian, Tyrrhenian, Mediterranean, and Ionian seas, so lots of coastline. It has mostly Mediterranean climate, so in general, from central to southern Italy, they have warm, dry summers and pretty mild winters. Although it does get cold. People sometimes ask me, like, oh, isn't it warm in Sicily year round? No, unfortunately, it does have chilly months as well, but overall, really good climate and lots of months that you can enjoy it. And then another little fun fact is Italy is actually the largest area in Europe that is farmed organically. They really value their quality of food, and that's reflected throughout the culture. All right, little brief history lesson. So Italy has been conquered by many different groups throughout history, and that's partly why you'll find different architecture, food, even languages in each region. And another thing that makes Italy so fun to explore, you'll always experience something different in each region that you go to, and sometimes different parts within the same region. So there's lots to get into and a lot of variety. It was actually smaller states and kingdoms throughout history until just 162 years ago when it was finally unified as the country of Italy. And the language is Italian, but if you go to the Dolomites, for example, in the north, you'll hear more German than Italian. And even in, I remember when I lived in Puglia, living in the town of Castellana Grotte, I started picking up some dialect, and then I went to another village just maybe less than an hour away and tried to use some of the local dialect, and they didn't know what I was saying. So it really has these micro cultures that are so fascinating.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sierra. That really helps us like place ourselves in Italy. So, before we get into the regions, just a little bit, like talking about our approach to travel. So, really it is like the people that brighten places. Like they're like the stars of the show, whether you're talking about your local guide or maybe a local artisan maker, a restaurant owner, a farm owner, like they all have these things that they're passionate about. One of my partners once said, like a fire in their belly and like a glint in their eye. Those are the type of people that we really connect with and we connect you with when you join us on like these experiences. We don't walk around with like flags. We, avoid big buses. We really want like a cultural immersion, like what it's like to be like living there. We really look to take care of the communities that we visit and the planet. We love that, for example, in Italy, there's so much like organic and regenerative food. They have farm stays, biodynamic wine. There's so many really incredible initiatives in Italy. And we really curate these activities so that you can like learn the history, gain culinary memories and experience. We want you to leave with memories that you take home and those last forever. So here are some just little quotes of what travelers have said in the past. So one shared that she's impressed by the quality of the trip in all ways. It could be so easy to cut corners, skimp on meals or accommodations, but none of that happened. And in fact, everything was above and beyond and felt first class. Thank you for a wonderful trip. Chris, who did our self-guided itinerary, she said, I wanted to say how awesome today was. We'll remember it forever. Marta, who's one of our partners, was amazing, and we are shocked at the beauty of the Casavento. It was such a wonderful experience. And Julie shared every day was meticulously planned, yet there's flexibility. There's, sorry, I can't even see it because it's blocked. There was a mix of planned time and free time, which was perfect. We felt well guided and we had space to follow our own interests and energy. So we really try and balance the itineraries too, because you want some free time to explore things on your own. And Sierra, do you want to share these?
Yeah, I'll just read a couple. So Cynthia said, I visited over 40 countries and Creative Edge Travel is absolutely the best agency I've ever worked with. Sierra was recommended by world traveling friends and I've recommended her to everyone I know. We'll be back for more. Thanks so much to Sierra and her wonderful Italian partners. And I think Cynthia might be in this crowd today. So hi, Cynthia. And then Daniel said, Creative Edge Travel gave us the vacation of a lifetime. From touring Rome's best sites to dining with local families and smooth travel connections, Sierra and her team provided flawless service. We're engaging her next year for more travels. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we are going to take you to 3 places today, Tuscany, Puglia, and Campania. So we're going to just dive right into each of those. So Sierra, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Okay, so Tuscany is one that I don't have to introduce you to. You've all heard of it, right? When you think of Tuscany, you most likely think of Chianti's rolling hills. So you've heard of Chianti wine. Chianti is actually an area of Tuscany. And that is typically the scenery that comes to mind when we think of Tuscany, but there are actually a variety of diverse landscapes. So there's mountains along the north and east, and you can see there in the photo, the arrow is pointing to where the region of Tuscany is located. those rolling hills are more in the center, and then you also have coastal plains and seaside, even Elba Island, which is beautiful. And Tuscany together is the size of New Jersey, more or less. So Tuscany highlights. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a bite size of Tuscany, what things you might be looking for if you're taking a trip there. So the main cities are Florence, which is the capital of Tuscany. So a lot of people will be in Florence and say like, oh, yesterday I was in Tuscany. And it's like, no, actually, you're still in Tuscany. So Florence is the capital of Tuscany. Pisa is where you'll find the Leaning Tower. Siena is a town south of Florence, and they're famous for their Piazza del Campo, which is where their famous Palio horse race takes place every summer. And Lucca is another mid-sized town not too far from Florence, and it's known for its medieval walls that are still around the city that you can walk on. Food-wise, you're going to be looking at, I mean, it's really hard to like make it concise into three different mentions of food here, but bistecca alla fiorentina is definitely the most famous thing in Tuscany, the Florentine steak. I know it's a shame, but I don't eat beef, so I get more excited about wild boar stew or really any of the pasta dishes. But you'll also find that Chianti wine is the most popular, at least for Americans, but there's tons of other wine all over Tuscany. And then they're also known for their delicious pecorino cheese. And you've probably seen films like Under the Tuscan Sun and Gladiator, which were both filmed there. Tuscany is also known for its Renaissance artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo, Botticelli, and you'll see works by all those artists in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. And then the other aspect that makes Tuscany iconic are those picturesque medieval villages, the winding lanes lined with the cypress trees. So you'll find all that in Tuscany. Okay, so now we get to dive into where I get really excited about things, sharing those hidden gems, going beyond the highlights. And I actually wanted to just share some specific lesser known places in Florence for you. These are places that were some of my favorite spots from my time living there, where I would always see more locals than tourists. And so just diving right in, the Antico Settificio Fiorentino. It's the ancient silk factory of Florence. So this is a really cool spot. I'm really surprised that it's not more well known. It is kind of tucked away across the river from the main area. But I happened to meet a friend whose mom is a weaver there. So I actually got to go in and like she explained and showed me the looms that they work on that are just these amazing, huge ancient machines. And what I found most fascinating was she said that they can actually recognize some of their tapestries and fabrics that they made at this factory in some of the artwork at the Uffizi Gallery because the noble families of the time would have their own pattern and they knew that that was the pattern that they made there. So I thought that was really cool. So that's a really cool hidden gem to visit, lesser known. And then food-wise, I know sometimes it's hard if you're vegetarian or vegan. So I wanted to list these two restaurants, which are good whether you're vegetarian or not. They're really, really good and really local. So Il Vegetariano is amazing. They have different dishes and can cater to lots of different dietary issues. And then Brac would be like the upscale version of that. If you want something more high-end, more creative, and maybe more a special place to celebrate. And then Santa Rosa Bistro. This is a place that if you can just close your eyes and imagine golden hour in Italy near the river, sipping an Aperol Spritz, this is like an ideal spot to do that. So it's outdoor in a garden. They have just tables set up throughout the garden. They also have a little indoor area. So it's a beautiful space. And then they also kind of transition from a coffee shop to like a lunch spot to aperitivo dinner and then into like DJ sets at night. So it's a cool little local spot to know about. And then another great tip is that during the summer in Florence along the river, there are different venues that pop up. So you'll have bars, little restaurants, live music, dancing. So it's usually the places are usually just barely outside of the main center. So I don't usually see a lot of tourists there. So it's something that is good to know about, where you can go and kind of just be a local on a Friday night out, you know. And it's all outdoors, which is just beautiful. And then finally, Piazza Santo Spirito. So this is one of my favorite little piazzas. It's in the Oltrarno area across the river. And so it's a little bit quieter, not so crowded, and you can kind of just breathe and soak in the local atmosphere. In the mornings there, they often have markets, whether it's a vintage market, food market, local artisan market. And then in the evenings, it becomes like a dinner spot and then transitions into like a nightlife spot. Okay, so that's Florence. I'd love to hear in the comments, did that get you guys excited about maybe going to Florence one day and hitting up some of these spots? Maybe you've been to Florence before. Okay, so I'm going to take a sip here and then we'll move into Mugello. Okay, so Mugello is, Jennifer says, Florence is at the top of my list in Tuscany. Awesome. Love that. It's so beautiful. Florence is my favorite of the main cities in Italy, but they all have amazing, beautiful aspects. Okay, so Mugello is a subregion of Tuscany, and it lies between Florence and Bologna. So there you'll find beautiful foothills in the summer. There are the sunflower fields. So if you've ever dreamt of, you know, I at least for me, I have these images come to mind of these expansive sunflower fields and just driving through them. So that's an area where you could actually do that. There's lots of tiny stone villages, just ancient little quaint villages that are wonderful for just walking through and soaking up the everyday life there, because they're not tourist destinations. So you can just go and really be with the locals and witness them in their everyday routines. The Medici family, you've probably heard of from Florence, they actually had their villas here, and they would go to these villas in the summertime to escape the heat in Florence. So that's an interesting piece of history in Mugello. It's also known for their handmade knives and ceramics. It's the birthplace of Giotto. So if you're familiar with art history, Giotto was the father of the Renaissance. Lots of festivals as well. Some that stand out are the Chestnut Festival. There's also a really cool flower festival in the summer. Porcini mushrooms and truffles. And then, of course, you've got lots of small wineries and family-run farms. And if you're into racing at all, you've probably heard of the Mugello racetrack. It's kind of famous. I'm not super into racing, so I don't know anything else about it, but I've seen it. And if you were into racing, it would be a cool thing to visit. Okay, so just checking out the chat here. Mugello sound like larger Vinci. Yeah, everywhere in Italy. Absolutely. Agreed. Okay, so now we're going to share a little bit about Treasures of Florence. So this is our newer trip, our small group trip, which is 7 people, so really small and intimate, so that we can get into those little artisan studios and, you know, really experience it. There are so many highlights in Florence that cater to different interests, whether it's history, food, art, gardens and villas. There's so much just in that list of highlights. And so I created this trip to give you free time to see those highlights that call to you most, so you can kind of choose what appeals to you. And then our time with the group is focused on those more immersive local flavor experiences that would be hard for you to find on your own. And then we also have time soaking up the Tuscan countryside. So we kind of get the best of both with this trip. So I just have we don't have time today to go through every day by day itinerary, but I just kind of have a picture that represents each experience during the trip here. And then you can head to our website, creativeedgetravel.com, if you wanted to download the detailed itinerary. So if you can go back one, Ashley. Oh, back one, wrong direction.
Yep, sorry.
Oh, other direction. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So We have a walking tour to get you oriented, but we're taking the back roads. So we'll pass by our local favorite hidden gems, like the secret garden you saw on the previous slide. Yeah, the courtyard there in the middle. And then we also have a street food tour for dinner one night, an artisan walking tour, which is one of my favorite things. So that's where, as you can see here, a couple of the artisans we visit are the leather shoemaker. The one on the left is amazing. They paint with stone. So they actually cut little pieces of stone and use the different value of each stone to create this mosaic that looks like a painting. So what you're seeing there is actually the left is the reference and then the right is made of stone. So we'll also do a gelato tasting. I'm a gelato snob, so I had to get gelato in there. We get to have a dinner party with locals. This is a really unique experience that my friend Lucia does just for Creative Edge Travel. So her and her husband host us in their cottage in the hills above Florence and serve this amazing multi-course homemade meal. So if you ever imagined yourself sitting at a long table with Italians having a meal and just soaking it up and lingering over the dishes, then that's your chance to get that experience. And then we also visit a truffle festival in one of my favorite hidden gems with amazing views. And then we have that full day exploring Tuscan countryside, visiting little villages, having lunch on a pecorino cheese farm, and also visiting a family-owned wine and olive oil farm. And then we wrap it up with a cooking class. So there are 5 spots left on that trip. And like I said, you can check it out at the website, or I think we'll also be emailing you some links for you to check out. And now we'll move on to Tuscany. But while I take a sip, I'd love to hear what stood out to you most, which experience that I just listed was most enticing to you. So the cooking class, lots of people are always dreaming of going to Italy and taking cooking classes, gelato, artisan workshops. There's so much to get into. Okay, so we'll move on to Living Slow in Tuscany. And this is the trip that takes place in that Mugello area that we talked about before. So this trip is where you really get to participate in the traditions and the culture rather than just observing it. So for the first half of the trip, we have a farm stay in little cottages from the 1600s, if you can imagine that. And then the last few days of the trip, we are staying in the center of a small village in a villa where the same family has lived for over 500 years. So it's really special experience, the way that they host us like friends rather than tourists, and just the mom and daughter that host us there are so sweet and welcoming. And again, I'll just show you some pictures of the main experiences during the trip, and then you can grab that detailed itinerary in the links that we'll send you afterwards. So we go to a winery where they've actually found ancient Etruscan coins in the soil when they turned the soil to plant the vines, which is super cool. We get to help with the olive harvest. We make something with a master leather craftsman. We have a lovely hike through the countryside, ending with a special meal. So that's one thing we always like to incorporate, some time in nature where you can really connect with the land and the place that inspired so much beauty from the culture itself. We go truffle hunting on the farm. We'll have a pizza night at the farm stay where they make wood-fired pizza and we get to try all different kinds till we're absolutely stuffed. And then we also visit a village known as the place to go for handmade knives since medieval times. So lots of fascinating history there. And there's a couple different opportunities for cooking classes during this trip. As you can see in that picture, it's a lot of fun. We have a great time sipping wine while we make pasta. And then staying in the villa is an event within itself. So the painted ceilings, the family history everywhere, you can imagine over 500 years. So you just point to anything you see and they've got the whole story about it. It's amazing. Very unique experience. And then we're staying in the center of that little village. So on day 7, you walk out and you're right in the middle of their beautiful little annual chestnut festival where they have different vendors set up and you can taste chestnut products, and they have lots of other things as well. So that's really fun. So that trip again is happening in October, and there are 4 spots left. So we'll send you the link after for that as well.
Amazing. Thank you. So we're going to keep going on to different regions. So we're going to go a little bit farther south now to Campania. Sierra, can you give us a little overview of this region?
Yeah, so Campania is there where the arrow is pointing. So we've gone south. If you've heard of the Amalfi Coast, this is the region where the Amalfi Coast is. So this area is mountainous and hilly. There's 311 miles of coastline. The main airport there is Naples, which you've probably heard of and probably know about their pizza, right? And then also this region is famous for their mozzarella di bufala, as well as limoncello. You've probably heard of limoncello as well. And of course, the most iconic area of Campania is probably the epic beauty of the Amalfi Coast. It's just absolutely breathtaking. And there's also a few islands. So Ischia is a really cool island. You can take a ferry to it from Naples. Procida is another island, and then Capri is off of the Amalfi Coast.
Amazing. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the traverse itineraries because we got so many requests for so long about the Amalfi Coast. And, it's one of those places where it does get a lot of tourism. And so we're like, how can we see this, but in a very different way? And we like when we're developing new destinations to send out like surveys and hear what you guys are interested in. So we designed this itinerary around more of a nature and hiking based trip. So if we have any adventurers, put, maybe the word adventure or hiking in the chat. Let us know where our adventurers are. Our trip leading guide, Rafa, couldn't join us today for this, but she's the one who's designed this all. She's Italian as well, and she does like incredible trekking all over, not just Italy, but like other parts like close by in Europe. And so she knows it like the back of her hand. So we actually are just kicking off our first trip of this itinerary in May and are super excited. So some of the highlights in this trip. So for as far as like kind of the trekking, so one of the really incredible hikes that you can do is called the Path of the Gods. It takes you along the Amalfi Coast. You can go shorter or longer distances depending on like how far, how many kilometers that you want to go. It's not super, super technical, but it's very, very beautiful. And so we combine that, of course, with good food because in Italy, you always have to have like good food to sustain. And also an explorations of Hell Valley. In this area, there's so many incredible landscapes that are, results of natural volcanic activity over the years. Pompeii, of course, everyone has probably heard of, and the ruins, but what people maybe don't know is that there are a lot of hiking opportunities around there. So in addition to these spots, we also go to Ischia, the island, for hiking and swimming and of course, sunsets and more really good food. We meet with some local fishermen and we get to learn, we really have a lot of storytellers on this trip. The legends and the stories of these medieval villages that have so much history. So you'll meet a lot of characters along this trip. And these are the people that are preserving the traditions in these, tiny little villages and these areas. So we'll also get some cheese making in. As you probably know, in Italy, very much like wine, there's cheese regions of Italy. So, pretty much every cheese that you get from Italy is going to have a specific place that it comes from, like a specific type of processing. Maybe it's from, sheep or cow or goat or, some other mammal. So that's a really cool experience to be able to not just learn about the food itself, but how it has evolved over history. And of course, we couldn't visit this region without also going to a winery. So we'll be at a family-owned winery village or family-owned vineyard for tastings and to be able to walk through the vines. So this trip is really designed for, of course, the cultural immersion and culinary, but also like a next level up with the nature experiences. And on to our next region. Sierra, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. I love how you have created this trip around the Amalfi Coast because there is quite a tourist path there. So it's really important and really special and unique to find a company that's really taking people into the nature and doing things a little bit different. So that's a really awesome itinerary. Um, okay, so Puglia has a special place in my heart. It's where I went to live after I left New York City for a bit. And it has plains, mountains, and islands. There's 518 miles of coastline. So you can see where the arrow is pointing. It's the heel of the boot, and it has quite a lot of coastline. The main airports are Bari and Brindisi. And Puglia is known for its ancient olive groves. So here the trees are much older than the ones you would see in Tuscany. So they're, imagine those like twisted, gnarly, beautiful old olive trees and just fields and fields of them. There's also a lot of masserie. So masserie are fortified farm structures in the countryside that have mostly been turned into B&Bs or are still working farms or both. And then truly houses are those little cute cone-shaped houses, really charming, and they are mostly concentrated in a valley called the Itria Valley. Okay, so some highlights of Puglia. If you're heading to Puglia, you'd probably want to be visiting these three towns. Alberobello, so that's a town, the only village that's really made of the truly houses. So it's touristy, but charming and very unique, so it's worth the visit. Monopoli is a beautiful town on the coast. You'll see a picture of that in a moment. And then Ostuni is another village that's whitewashed and up on the hill. And then Polignano a Mare, so that's another main village that you can't miss. And it's the one there in the picture. So it's this whitewashed village clinging to the cliffs there. It's small, but it's so beautiful, so special. And they have the Red Bull Cliff Diving Championship there every year. And then Puglia is also known for some Baroque architecture. So cities like Lecce. Lecce is farther in the south, and it's a really cool city. Again, lots of Baroque architecture there. So a walking tour of the history is fascinating. And then Martina Franca is another town that has great Baroque architecture. I think I saw a question here. So why do some people call it Apulia and some Puglia? So this is a great question. So Puglia, the way it's spelled on the slide, is the Italian spelling and pronunciation. The English version is Apulia, but for some reason I've noticed that we've kind of just kept calling it Puglia. Sometimes you'll see Apulia, sometimes Puglia. It's the same place. Good question. Food-wise, you've also got mozzarella here in Puglia, orecchiette pasta, so that's like the little ear shape. Orecchia is ear, so orecchiette is like little ear-shaped pasta, which we'll learn how to make. Olive oil, seafood, of course, lots of seafood, amazing dishes. They, excuse me, they also eat raw seafood. It's called crudo. So that was something new for me. If you like to expand your palate, focaccia barese is the delicious, pillowy, soft focaccia with the cherry tomatoes on it. Oh, it's so good. And then, of course, the whitewashed villages. My first time in Puglia reminded me of Greece. I've never been to Greece, but it's what I had in mind when I thought about Greece. So it's very different from the scenery you see in, say, Tuscany. Amazing beaches, both sand and pebble. Panoramic views of those ancient olive groves. Okay, so now digging a little bit past the highlights. So I wanted to share some things you can do in Puglia to get a little bit deeper than most of the tourists. So you might think of doing a cooking class, but I'd encourage you to look for a cooking class that is in a trullo. So that way you can check off two different experiences at once and actually get to go inside the trullo. Loco Rotondo is a lesser known village. It's a little bit smaller and one of my favorites, and especially at Christmas. It's famous for its Christmas decorations. So you can just imagine walking through these winding, whitewashed streets with those Christmas decorations standing out against the white background. It's beautiful. Altamura, this is a village or really a town that's lesser known, but they bake this amazing bread in these giant loaves. And then they also have a really cool underground city that you can do a tour of. So that could be a cool little day trip for you. Castellana Grotte, this is the village where I lived. And if you're into caves, this is a spot you would want to hit. They're known for their expansive cave network. And they also do a really cool performance in the cave that's, I believe they do it on aerial performance in the cave because there's this huge opening and a large drop from the surface level down to the bottom of the cave. And it's fascinating. And then Gargano, this is also great for nature lovers, but really anyone can enjoy it. Gargano would be like the spur on the back of the boot. And most people in Puglia focus on the central and southern parts of Puglia, but Gargano has so much to offer, especially that there are very few tourists there. So the Umbra Forest is an UNESCO site, and it's great for hiking, seeing cool animals, just beautiful to me, those like storybook forests that are all beech trees and just beautiful. There's 90 species of wild orchids that grow there. And the towns you would want to visit are Monte Sant'Angelo, Peschici, Vico del Gargano, which is partially abandoned, which is interesting to see it kind of frozen in time. And then the Tremiti Islands are beautiful. And then Vieste is not listed, but it's usually the highlight of Gargano, but I kind of went there and just didn't feel that connection with it. So those are just my personal favorites, but you might want to look into Vieste as well. Okay, so our trip that takes place in Puglia is called Secrets of Southern Italy. Suzanne is here. She's chiming in the chat, and she actually went on this trip with us last May. She says Monte Sant'Angelo really impressed me. Yeah, it's beautiful. We leave the seaside and go up into the mountains, Monte Mountain. So it's up on the hill, and you have beautiful views of both mountains on one side and then down to the sea on the other side. So if you like panoramas, it's a beautiful town to visit. So this trip is all about immersing with locals, panoramic views, and truly getting off the beaten path. So like I said, we start around Polignano, we head north to Gargano, where the tourists are far and few between. So you get kind of the best of both. You can go forward. So you heard me mention Monopoly earlier. That's that picture on the top there. So some of the experiences we have, we'll have a day spent in a masseria in the countryside, where we'll have a cooking class with my friend Anna. And then we also have a live folk band play just for us. And they also teach us some of the traditional folk dance called pizzica. You can see those ancient olive trees there in that picture in the previous slide as well. And then we stay in Monte Sant'Angelo. This is a town that's known for its sanctuary in a cave. So it's a very sacred site. It's become a religious pilgrimage. It has been for hundreds of years. So different type of tourism there. And we also get to do a walking tour there to meet my artisan and musician friend Domenico. You can see him there in the picture. Lots of fun characters. We get to meet Athena, who is the keeper of the castle in the bottom picture. So we kind of have to get past Athena to visit the castle. And we have that beach day picnic. Oh my gosh, that day is so relaxing and beautiful. That beach is just a hidden gem. Imagine the white cliffs falling into the Adriatic Sea, and then the water has carved out these little caves along the shore, so you can kind of walk along and pick our little private cave and sit in there, just enjoy food and have a swim. It's a beautiful day. We hiked to an abandoned abbey. That's really special because, it's amazing to see the Colosseum, but you also have to share it with so many tourists, and places like this where you arrive and it's just in the middle of nowhere, no one else around, and you can really feel the energy and connect with the place. So it's really special. We'll have a gelato workshop. Again, I love gelato, so I always try to work that in. And this is really the best gelato I've ever had. Maybe Suzanne can chime in on that. But the bottom pick there is some guests having dinner on the terrace of our B&B, so you can kind of get a sense for that beautiful view we'll have from where we're staying. We visit my friend Giuseppino's Trabucco, which is an ancient fishing structure, which I can tell you more about another time. And then next door, we have an open air dinner in a restaurant that buys their fresh fish from Giuseppino, so really cool. And then we end with an epic private boat cruise along the Gargano coast to visit different sea caves and have an aperitivo on board, have a swim if it's warm. So really fun way to end the trip. And then that bottom right picture is Matera. So there's an option to add a few days in Matera, which is an amazing UNESCO site and a city built of caves. So yeah, yeah, I'll let you go ahead, Ashley.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sierra. I feel like everyone should give her a round of applause because she's such a wealth of information, such curated, special experiences. And again, that's like why we really wanted to connect, because we really share these values in the way that we, organize our experiences and create them for you guys to enjoy. So just a few things, and then we'll open it up for questions. So here are some of the upcoming trips. The Secrets of Southern Italy that Sierra was just talking about is coming up in May, and there are some spots. There's also Treasures of Florence and Living Slow in Tuscany in the fall. We have at Traverse our iconic Italy hits Tuscany and Florence, as well as some other spots in kind of like that region, and takes you through by both train and car. You get to experience like wineries, take it at like a good pace. What makes our self-guided itineraries different is like we set you up with the itinerary, the experiences, all of the things, and you just get to follow it and get to enjoy it. But then you can pick dates that work for you. It's 2 or more people. And then for the Southern Italy, at the moment, it's self-guided, but be on the lookout because we're about to launch some dates for 2026. So for all of these trips, for joining us today, you can get $200 off the group trips, $100 off of any of the self-guided trips. Again, we'll follow up with an email, so you don't need to remember all of this, but you'll just pop that code in when you do your booking. So. And then also, thank you so much for joining us. We do these events quite often. We have a few really cool ones coming up. We're trying to add one more to the slides right before, but on April 8th, we'll be talking about the Mayan calendar. Deborah, I see your question. I'll get to that in just one second. We have our really wonderful retreat leader, Michelle, who lives down in Guatemala, who will be taking us through the Mayan calendar and what that means for you. It's a really incredible system. We also have on the same day a free Pilates class with Lee Valley. She has Lee Valley Pilates based in Austin, Texas, but she also does online and virtual Pilates classes, and she's leading our trip coming up in France. We have a retreat in France in the Toulouse area coming up in May, and she also is leading our Mexico retreat in October in San Miguel de Allende. So those are coming up on April 8th. On April 23rd, not mentioned here, but we also have Cusco and the Sacred Valley. So if you're thinking of hiking the Inca Trail, or if you want to visit Machu Picchu, be sure and join so that you can learn all the details for that. So, okay, on to questions. So a couple of you asked how the self-guided trips work. Sierra, I'll explain kind of from the Traverse side of things, and then I'll let you chime in for how it works for you. But for Traverse, so I mean, we have about 25 destinations that we offer, and pretty much every trip has a self-guided option for 2 or more people. Every trip is going to be a little different. You may have a car rental, say for like Iceland or Croatia, and we map out everywhere that you need to go. We set up experiences, whether it's like local guides or a cooking class or a hike, all of these things, and you just follow. It's typically 8 to 10 days. And that makes it like flexible so that it can work kind of for you. For example, upcoming, we have actually a couple of people on the Southern Italy trip coming up. We have Iceland, we have Portugal, quite a lot of the self-guided itineraries. Sierra, how about for you? How does that work? on your end?
Yeah, so we have these small group trips and we also do custom trip planning. So if you wanted to take a trip just with your significant other or a friend, your family, we can plan a trip based on your interests and where you'd like to go. You can use these group trips itineraries as a kind of base plan and then customize it for you. So we've had people do our Living Slow in Tuscany trip just for their group of friends, and they maybe didn't want to do the leather workshop, but they wanted to add a winery. So that kind of thing, you can kind of customize it. So that's how it works.
Yeah, and then as far as inclusions go, I think Sierra's probably is similar for you. So we include like the accommodations and like all of the internal transit, whether it's trains or if you're renting a car, all of the directions that you're going to need, all of kind of the costs of the experiences that are included in the trip itself. So, you take care of your plane ticket, you get yourself there, and then we've got it all mapped out for you.
Yeah, so the self-guided, you would get on my side, you get a day-by-day itinerary and you would know exactly where to show up and when. Sometimes your guide would maybe be meeting you right where you're staying. So it's very easy to follow and you have the contact info for everyone you would need, and you can just kind of do it on your own, but with everything taking, all the details taken care of for you.
Exactly. We'd like to make it easy for you guys. Any other questions? I know we have a couple people that have traveled with us before, maybe some that are thinking of it. Awesome. Suzanne, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad that you loved your first trip to Italy, and yeah, going back to avoid the crowds. So I'm definitely can make that happen for you guys. All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, then we will sign off for the day. I'll say a little goodbye to everyone. So thanks for joining us, Sierra. Thank you again. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.